Hello and welcome to the Final Fantasy Entertainment and Podcast Network Final Fan TV, and today we're gonna dive deep into some Final Fantasy VII music, and there was only one way to do that, and that was with at FF7 Music himself. What's up, Steven? How are you doing?
Thank you for that introduction. I am actually doing really well. It's good to be back. I think it was like just about a year ago when we did our first analysis.
Yeah, I think so. And then we had you back on for the anniversary special and everything, playing some games. So it's great to have you back on again, Steven. And I'm really excited to hear what you bring to the show this time around. I know that you said you've gotten some hidden, like some data files that you want to share, some things like that. I think you have a little bit about your own brand as well, the FF7 Music, and some exciting things going on there, as well as diving into some remake tracks and like really kind of figuring out what's going on. Of course, we are not theory crafters by any means, but hey, we're gonna listen to these songs, and I think music tells a story almost sometimes just as well as, you know, like what you're seeing on screen visually. The music is telling a story at the same time, and it's also sometimes having these hidden revelations within that maybe we can find out today. We're going to dive into it, but before we do, we have the Firaga Fighter over here. What's up, Eddie? I was waiting to see if you did it. I was waiting.
I'm good, Daniel. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. Got the bubbles going on. It's great. That's a little aqualung on me there, I think. And I am the warrior of hype, Daniel. So let's get this thing going. I'm going to dive right into it. Let's start with Steven. Introductions here, man. Who are you, in case if nobody has seen our previous content and this is the first time seeing you, maybe never even heard of your Twitter account and anything like that. Let's get an introduction on who you are, Steven. What's up?
I am Steven. You can find me on Twitter at FF7 Music. That is FFVII, Roman numerals. That account is actually fairly new. I started it in January. So if you go and watch my previous music analysis, that was actually before I was doing any of this stuff. But I kind of embarked on a mission for myself to create like a playlist of all Final Fantasy VII Remake music, which quickly dovetailed into the creation of this account because I just, I knew that there were people out there that would want information about FF7 music, and I was just like, man, I really want to share all this stuff. Due to obviously copyright and licensing, I can't just like throw the music out there, but I was like, I want to see what I can do. So I started that account on Twitter. I do spotlight themes daily. And so yeah, it's pretty cool. I have a lot of fun over there. I keep it positive. So drama-free.
Yeah.
So if you don't already, follow me over there, and occasionally we'll throw some music analysis at everybody. I am narrative focused. I do just want to like point that out there. I'm a fan. I'm not like a big expert on like music theory. I would like to be, and I'm trying to get better at it. But yeah. So that's me.
Well, thank you for the introduction, man. And also, while we're at it, man, let's talk about a little bit future things that people can expect and why they should go follow you, and then we'll dive right into the music analysis.
Yeah, simply put, people should follow me because I'm awesome. So yeah, I've actually curated a pretty nice following in a short period of time. So I am going to be trying my hand at a little bit of YouTube stuff here soon. I ran a poll on my Twitter account about 4 months ago, something like, an embarrassingly long time ago, asking people like, hey, what do you want to hear me talk most about? And most people were like, oh, Advent Children music and Final Fantasy VII Remake sounds really good. So that one won. So then I was like, okay, I'll do that. And then I didn't do anything for like 3 months. Now I am actually working on it. I've been recording audio and putting video together. So hopefully have something here by like maybe the end of the month or beginning of next month. But yeah, so that's what I'm going to start doing. I would like to start doing some like more community spotlighting with other people doing FF7 music stuff. There's a lot of people like modding, the PC release with like different music things that I think is really cool. But I haven't figured all that out quite yet. So, but that's stuff that people can hopefully expect from me going forward.
Nice, man. Well, thank you so much for being here. Let's. What's the first thing you want to jump into today, Steven?
Ooh, I actually would like to just plug my something that I've worked on in the past, just because people don't seem to not know that I've done it, even though I've put quite a bit of work into it. So before we get into like the better stuff, I just want to mention about one of the first things I did when I was working on creating this account, FF7 Music. It all came about, like I said, because I wanted to create this playlist, and to do that, I was like putting things in order and documenting it, and I was putting it in a spreadsheet, and then people were like, "Oh man, are you gonna like share this stuff?" And so I thought, okay, well, sharing the spreadsheet would be a good idea. So basically, what it is it documents all of the music that plays in game in Remake. It has the names of the themes. It has who composed it, who arranged it, where does it play in the game, which soundtrack can you find it on, and some of them are unreleased, like they're in the game but Square never released it. So I have that. I have like a comment section where I add some additional notes like, hey, there's an unused version that plays here. And one of my favorite things is I actually have a column there that is has like the Japanese title, and I worked with Turquoise Hammer awesome. Over on Twitter. He's a great dude. So he did almost all of the translation work on there, and he did it super fast. I was like, oh yeah, would you be willing to help me out? And then like a couple hours later, he's like, boom, it's done. Because I don't read or speak Japanese. I was able to pull the titles from the internet, but I was like, I can't translate them. But I wanted like the literal translation, so people interested could see like the differences in the names of the themes and stuff.
Yeah.
And he did that. He did all that. And for the unreleased themes, it's like we came up with our own titles for most of them, and he did the Japanese translations for those as well. So like that I just was like. That was really cool. And I like collaborating with other people, and most of the stuff I do is solo work. So that was really cool to do. But I wanted to plug that real quick. There's a link to it on my Twitter bio. I have people ask me all the time, oh yeah, what's the theme that plays here? And you can, for the most part, find that information on there. So.
Incredible, man. That's so cool. That's so cool. Very comprehensive. Like Samuel is saying in chat right now, probably the most comprehensive documentation of Final Fantasy VII music that exists.
For Final Fantasy VII Remake, yes. It doesn't cover anything else. But yes.
Yet. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't put that on you.
So I'm actually, of all the games or titles out there, the one that I'm actually working on another one for is Dirge of Cerberus. And the only reason I'm doing it is because I am so unfamiliar with this game. And so the daily spotlights I do, I'll post a video that has like a musical theme in it every day on Twitter. And I opened it up in April. I was just doing remake music, and then I ran a poll. Everybody was like, no, we want to hear more. So I started doing different ones, but I have them scheduled, but I have like 2 days where I do compilation themes, and I started getting requests for Dirge Cerberus themes. Haven't played that game since like 2010.
Yeah.
So I have no idea where the music plays, but I try to do like for the still image for the video, because you can't just share an audio file on Twitter. So I try to do like an image that relates to the theme, like the general area or something. So I was like, okay, well, I don't know where any of these play. So I had to go and start looking up videos. And I was like, okay, I'm like writing this down. So I'm actually have like a work in progress run, but it's because I don't know where it is, so I'm documenting it for myself. Yeah. But I figure, whenever I do complete that, but that's going to be a long time from now, I might make that one public too. But nobody's really reached out about wanting any other ones, and a couple of them would be really hard to do, like OG, because there's like 86 themes and they play in like 86 places each. So that one would be like really hard to do. So I don't know that I'll ever get to all of them, but yeah, I mean, potentially a couple of the other titles might get done. And then of course when Rebirth comes out, I'll have to tackle that beast.
Yeah, you'll be back at it again, man. That
was going to be a while because they won't release the soundtracks for a while after, but
yeah. Wow, well that's incredible stuff, man. So that's enough reason right there for you guys to go check out. You go to Twitter, and then just the handle is at the bottom of the screen right now. You can see it at FF7 Music. Very easy to remember. Of course, that's VII, not 7, but for audio listeners, it would be FFVII Music. But yeah, so really exciting stuff. I think everybody should go give you a follow, man. You're a great dude. So thanks for being here. Let's dive right into it, man. What's the first thing you want to get?
Man, we can talk about anything. So I spent quite a bit of time going through some of the later themes in the game, because I know everybody is interested in learning about as much as they can about Rebirth. Because
Rebirth, yeah. It became those two tracks became probably the most important tracks in the game at this point because of part 2.
Yeah, exactly. So everybody wants their theories about FF7 Rebirth and want to know what's happening. So, curiously, for anybody that still isn't aware, there are 2 themes that play towards the end of Remake that have the word Rebirth in the title. One of them is a theme called Arbiter of Fate Rebirth that plays during the Singularity battle where you're fighting the 3 Whispers. And then the arrangement of One Winged Angel in this game is called One Winged Angel Rebirth.
Yep, there it is. So those two are they have Rebirth in the name. So what did you come up with? You said you took a look at them. You really dove into it. Did you come up with anything at all?
So we can kind of go through this in whichever one you want to talk about first, or we can go through it from the beginning. I mean, either way.
We'll start with Arbiter of Fate Rebirth, because this is one that I was listening to and I really couldn't find. I don't know. I guess I personally I'm not a musician or anything like that, so I don't know. I was just listening for some audio cues or anything that motifs might have found their way in there, and I'm sure you probably have a much better thing going on description. But this is one of the ones that I was just like, I can't really quite pinpoint it. I hear a little bit of Sephiroth in there. I hear obviously the Whispers are in there, and I have like a theory on it, but it was kind of like a very loose theory, which apparently was based off of Sleep Easy. I went out and checked out his video, just to kind of like see what he said about that part. I don't get a lot of time to go check out theory videos and stuff. Unfortunately, I wish I had that time, but I don't. So things that I say today, and if you hear it that it was already said before, I'm sorry for repeating it and sounding redundant, or if it was already like shut down, like, hey, no, that's dumb. Don't even worry. But anyways, I'm listening out for Genova in this, because like I really feel like Genova is the purple essence within the Arbiter of Fate. Now, in Sleep Easy's video, and I believe even MJ Gallagher pointed out that they believe it was Sephiroth. Am I correct in saying that? I don't want to like put words in their mouth or anything, but
I unfortunately haven't been able to watch much of Sleep Easy stuff. I mean, I think he does great work, but his videos are very, very
long. Very detailed. I love it.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great stuff, but like you, I am limited on time. I did, however, get to watch MJ Gallagher's Easter egg series that he did. I think it was through KupoCon. That stuff was fascinating, and he mentioned that Sleep Easy had talked about a lot of this, and from what I gathered, they thought that the theory was that the purple, the color purple symbolizes Sephiroth in the game.
Yeah.
Like I think there's like in the chapter 12 battle when you fight the Whispers in the sector 7 like atrium or whatever before you go to the plate, you fight the enigmatic specter and it's like purple. So like I think they had a theory about somehow that being controlled by Sephiroth and stuff, and then obviously the purple essence that the Whisper Harbinger surrounds in the Singularity. I think they also said with Sephiroth, and that theory worked well to me. And even after like he's beaten, right? He like there's this purple essence around him, and then he kind of like absorbs all that stuff, and then he appears. So it's an interesting thing. I don't know if it's true, and I haven't done the level of research that I guarantee they've done.
Yeah, right.
but yeah, I mean, so I don't know if there's a great argument to be made for Genova versus Sephiroth or not, because I haven't looked into it. But I think it's interesting anyway, and it's certainly one of those two.
Yeah.
Now as far as the music in, there's 3 Arbiter of Fate themes actually. There's one called Arbiter of Fate Advent, there's Rebirth, and there's Singularity, and they play Advent first, Rebirth, and then Singularity. I will say I didn't hear anything specifically Genova.
Yeah. The only thing that was like there was like a little bit of like a the little ups and downs a little bit.
So there and that one mostly comes in Advent. There's like a rhythm to the violin and the way it's like kind of going up and down, but it doesn't exactly match the descending pattern that Genova has, because Genova's it's descending, and this one kind of is like going up and down, but the rhythm does sound similar, so maybe they're going for that, but I wouldn't like put money on it, just because for me, and this is mostly like in the first minute, like if you listen to it on the original soundtrack, which is on Spotify, thankfully, and it's also on Square Enix's Square Enix Music YouTube channel, so you can actually find it pretty easily. But like the very beginning, like first minute, you can hear that violin going through. But
I'm playing it right now. Can you hear it?
I can't. Oh, hold on.
Make sure you're watching the stream. Yeah.
Okay.
So I went ahead and I was as you were talking about it, it was good. I had it playing over while you were talking about it. So
sorry, guys.
That's all right. No, it works. You can keep talking. Like I have it low enough. I think you're.
But yeah, you can kind of hear that. Yeah. So that sounds like rhythmically a little like Genova, but to me, I wouldn't say it's quite enough.
Okay.
But some people, I've had people be like, no, I think you're wrong on this, and I'm like, okay, not this specifically, but just like music theories and stuff. I disagree with you on this, and it's like that's fine.
That's fine with me too. Yeah. Let's get into what you discovered. Let's not worry about me, because like this was me just being like goofy, thinking like Genova, because I like to think, just to kind of like throw out my theory, I guess, real quick. I would like to think that that Genova and Sephiroth are kind of trapped in there, like the life stream black type thing is the purple essence. It's not actually a black life stream; it's purple. And life stream white is green. That's just kind of where I'm at. But I think the purple is trapped in there. I think it's like the planet created a weapon to trap it within the life stream. This is my crazy idea. And then Sephiroth wants the party to let them escape. Now, the reason why is I'm looking at Arbiter of Fate, Advent, Rebirth, and Singularity. Is the names kind of represent the entire story arc in this game, feels like, whereas Advent is the second coming of at this point, or the return of a significant person or event. Right. Whereas in this game, I guess Sephiroth, this would be his like third or fourth or fifth return, like who but Genova, I suppose this would be her third, maybe even the second, depending on how you look at it, if she's able to be reborn with Rebirth. Right. And then with Singularity is the joining of multiple things into one, and it makes me think when he absorbs everything in the live stream and stuff, and like he basically absorbs Genova's essence. Like that's where I don't know, like instead of Genova being the puppet master, now Sephiroth is now the puppet master type thing. I don't know, that's just crazy thinking, but go ahead and dive into yours, Stephen, your analysis of this, please.
Yeah, so getting more into like what does each represent. I'm not married to this, but like what if this is, because there's a lot of like games of 3 in here. We get like the 3 resolution scenes and all that kind of stuff. There's going to be 3 games, all that kind of stuff. So what if this is that same motif? We got 3 different Arbiter Fate themes, and I'm thinking about like what if it's like supposed to be past, present, and future. Now this requires us to buy into the idea that we're like in a new timeline, and that Advent Children and OG is like the past.
Yeah.
And a lot of people hate that theory. I will say personally, that's what I've bought into. I think that's what's going on. I'm not saying it is, but that's kind of what I'm operating on right now. And if that is the case, then Advent is the past, Rebirth is the present, because what they're doing in this moment, if we're in a new timeline, they're releasing Sephiroth, Jenova, whatever, and they're changing fate or whatever you want to call it. So this is like them in the present, and then Singularity could be representative of the future, where now we're like in a new, like this one new path. Like
those multiple timelines,
are now converged into one Singularity. So like, is that what it's doing? Maybe. I don't like to say. I don't like to speak in absolutes anymore.
Right.
But,
only a Sith does that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I'm a Jedi Knight all the way. So, but to talk more about the music specifically, it doesn't necessarily tell us anything that would be like helpful for us to theorize on like what they're doing in the future. But I do think it's interesting that Advent seemed mostly to be its kind of more of its own theme. It didn't, to me, seem to draw off of anything too much. And what is noteworthy is that they don't credit Uematsu as an original composer. And typically, for the original soundtracks and all that stuff, themes that were based off of his themes, he's still credited as a composer, even though he didn't work on the new arrangements. The Material Ultimania, likewise, it was very good for the OST tracks, just the original soundtrack. Unfortunately, they didn't go into the soundtrack plus or unreleased, but they did a whole section in the Material Ultimania that's just about the music. It's really good. I definitely recommend reading it. There's comments about from the guys who arranged the themes about like how they came up with the ideas and stuff. It's really cool. But they have like a timeline of like, okay, this theme does play here and that stuff, and they put in there at the bottom of it, it's like original theme, like Jenova or Let the Battles Begin, and they even are like includes phrases of this theme. So like One Winged Angel Rebirth has very small phrases of Let the Battles Begin and Fight On, which some people know as Those Who Fight and Those Who Fight Further. It's the battle theme and boss battle theme from the original game. It has very small phrases of them, but they actually put that in there. Like they put it in the Material Ultimania. They don't have anything like that for any of the Arbiter of Fate themes.
Cool. Okay.
So that also kind of reinforces what I'm hearing, which is that it's mostly just original music. The one that is very heavily based on something else, though, is Rebirth, which is entirely based off of Whisper's theme. If you go and listen to Whisper's theme, there's a lot of that in there.
A lot of whispers in the Arbiter.
In Rebirth. So this part right here, if you go over to Whisper's theme and go to about 30 seconds in, you're going to hear something very, very similar.
Okay, so let's go Whisper's theme, and then about 30 seconds in?
Yeah. I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
That part right here. Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, there's a whole breakdown of like that, like Rebirth, like where it aligns with Whisper's theme. It's all over the place. So, it's almost entirely based off of Whisper's theme, which I guess makes sense because we're fighting Whispers here. So I don't really hear anything else. There are some trumpets in there that I think you had said you were kind of associating with like One Winged Angel and stuff like that. And that could be. Yeah. It could be the case. Now, some of the trumpets sound a little bit more heroic and kind of reminded me a little bit of Avalanche's theme from the original game, or from Remake, rather, for earlier in the game. But,
Yeah, see, like this part right here. Bum, 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 bum. It just sounds like it's kind of like sneaking in there, a little Sephiroth in there.
Yeah, I can see that. That part is definitely based off of part of the Whisper's theme as well, but maybe Whisper's theme was also drawing a little bit from Sephiroth's motifs. His motifs play all over the place.
That's
in this
true.
Game. So, there's so much of those chosen by the planet, which is actually like his technical character theme.
Yeah,
It plays all over the place. Yeah, I mean, you could do like a huge video just on that, but so maybe some of Whisper's theme was tying into that, because we do see a little bit of association with Sephiroth and the Whispers, particularly when he takes control of them. And actually, some of Whisper's theme is used in One Winged Angel Rebirth as well.
Yeah.
Which I can point out later if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so as you were saying, this really does feel like you're fighting towards it. Obviously, if you watch the gameplay footage, it is you taking down this thing. It's supposed to be like a champion, like a victorious moment, I guess. So it
feels like an epic struggle to me, like this epic battle. And the Harbinger is like this huge thing, so it makes sense.
It does.
Yeah, and I think it's curious here that this is kind of like where we like this theme ends when two of them, Cortreo and Verity, the yellow and green one, when they're defeated, and then the next phase is when they merge into Whisper Bahamut or whatever. Yeah. So it's kind of like the last time they're fighting like the Whispers before you fight like Bahamut. So maybe that's why like they wanted to use this version as like the Whispers theme heavy version to really like hone in on that. Music is highly interpretable, obviously, so I'm not going to say, like, I know what they're doing here, but, it's curious because, like, I think previously in our last analysis, I was mostly talking about, like, themes that I could, like, go back to OG or Advent Children, and this one is, like, it's new territory.
Yeah.
These are original to remake, which is kind of fun, but... But yeah, I think maybe that's it. It's kind of symbolizing like this is the last that we're seeing of the Whispers, because I have no idea whether they're going to be in Rebirth or not. But
I hope not. Oh yeah.
so here's the thing though. So we saw Sephiroth basically gain control of the Whispers at the end, like after you defeat the Harbinger. So I wonder if they're going to come back, but like now they're totally under Sephiroth's influence, so they're just agents of Sephiroth at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the names of these songs really do feel very significant. Advent, Rebirth, and Singularity. It definitely feels significant. And as you said, I mean, I guess, as you were saying, I guess it could be interpreted that way, where, like the three go merge into Bahamut. They basically become a singularity with Bahamut. I don't know what you want to call it.
Yeah, exactly.
So that starts up when that happens, yeah.
But yeah, and then going back to the title Advent, they confirmed in the Ultimania that Rubrum, Cortreo, and Verity are manifestations of Kadaj, Yazoo, and Laws. So like that makes sense, like. And then Rebirth, I think the title is really actually tying into the next game, and I think you can take a couple of things away from that. One could be like the actions we're doing here affects are directly going to come back in Rebirth, and then also just kind of like remaking the timeline kind of thing, but rebirth of the timeline, because these titles are similar. So it very well could be that, but I'm very much of the mind that this stuff is going to play a big role in the next game. Some people are downplaying that, but I don't.
Oh. Yeah,
but
I think it's for sure. Yeah,
but to me it seems like this was a pretty significant moment in the game, and it's going to affect things going forward. So I think this is really like a whole like the next game's Rebirth. It's like okay, that's why they called it Rebirth.
Super significant, yeah. Do you have any more comments on Arbiter of Fate, or do you want to jump into like One Winged Angel?
So one thing I will say, this isn't necessarily about the music, but I did notice that when I was watching a playthrough video of it, whenever you defeat one of them, you see the Harbinger like, whatever.
Yeah. Oh God!
Oh God! He got me. But the purple essence actually glows the color of the Whisper that you just defeated very briefly. So like when you defeat Cortreo is the yellow one. Like when you defeat, like he turned, and that was the one that like really stood out to me because it was really vibrant.
Yeah.
And so that to me made me wonder. Okay, that kind of gives a little bit more credence to the idea that maybe the purple essence is Sephiroth, because those are his remnants that are being defeated. Again, it's still it could be Genova, it could be both of them. I don't know, but I thought that was interesting. Aside from that, I think let me. I have notes here.
Yeah.
For Arbiter of Fate Singularity, I didn't really. I actually did notice one thing that was super weird. midway into the theme, I heard a piano line that to me sounded like not the main theme of Final Fantasy VII, but the main theme of Final Fantasy. And I thought that was super interesting, and I would love to hear other people talk about it. Hold on, I'll tell you where it comes in at.
Okay.
This happens around like 3:23.
Okay. We get to 3:23.
You might need to crank it up a little bit. You hear that piano line? You might need to pull it back because it's very small.
Yep.
But listen to the piano. Does that not sound like the opening theme, like the main theme of Final Fantasy?
Yeah, that's definitely it.
Yeah, like I just thought that was so interesting.
And then somebody just going hard on that violin.
Rocking it, man.
Yeah, so that is very interesting as it plays. I'm trying to figure out what part does that play. Do you remember?
If you go, I think I shared a file of the Pixel remaster version of I think it's called Opening Theme on the Pixel remaster for the original Final Fantasy.
Oh yeah.
But it should it's like the opening, like it's right there at the opening.
Yeah, no. I was wondering like at what point.
Oh, where in the
gameplay?
Game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I listened through Singularity and I watched a playthrough video, and that one just keeps looping. It's during the Bahamut fight, and that whole theme is just kind of looping around. So I didn't see that played in just a specific spot. Now you can go in there and look at it, but I didn't notice anything. I didn't notice that it played in a specific like a cutscene or anything. So.
Yeah. Let's see. So it plays during the Singularity, which is during this part.
During the Bahamut battle.
Yeah, it played right there. That's where it's at, right there.
Oh, I think it loops though. Like I think that part circles back, but I could be wrong because it looks like it played right when they defeated the Whisperer. So maybe it does specifically play there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's just kind of thrown in during this part where
I was gonna say it's playing there. It's playing right there too. Yeah. So and that's the thing with the BG and the background music is like, they have to loop it. And so sometimes I'll have specific things that only play in a specific part, but a lot of the tracks will loop. And so I didn't notice anything that was like, oh, there's a specific reason why they did it here, just that it was in there, and I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean anything. I just Yeah. It was just like, that feels like the main theme of Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Because it plays in the credits of OG. It's there in the staff roll or whatever, but it doesn't play in the credits of Remake. And I was like, well, that's a shame, but it's in there. They do have it somewhere in the game.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Yeah, that's a good spot, man. That's a very good spot. I was wondering if it happened anywhere significant, but like you said, it's just kind of part of that. So it's looping. Yeah. It is happening at the moment where Harbinger is being defeated. So if you want to take that and go with it, please feel free to.
Yeah,
comment.
I was gonna say somebody if you want to pick up where I left off. Because I can tell you right now, I'm not coming back to this for a while. I spent a lot of time this week listening to these things.
Same.
And I'm like, yeah, I need a break. We'll move on to other stuff for a little while.
Yeah, that was really cool. That's a really cool catch right there. All right. So any other things, or do you want to move on to?
Yeah, we can move on unless you or Vinny, you've been quiet over there.
Vinny, what's up, man? Yeah, Vinny, what's up, bro?
I'm basically just learning today.
If you have anything that you want to chime in, man, please feel free to chime in there, Vinny.
I will. I'm just learning and listening.
Okay.
I think we can get into a couple of other things later that he might want to.
Yeah, for sure. When we were talking about Rebirth music, like most anticipated stuff like that. Yeah, so I'm sure you'll have some stuff to say there for sure. And then also chat. Let us know what your most anticipated song from Rebirth is going to be. Just assuming you know where it's going to end, whatever. But if you say
I don't have chat pulled up here, so if anybody's say anything to me, just somebody let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have any questions for Steven, please sound off too. What's up, Vinny?
I said I'll direct the questions.
Okay, cool.
As they come.
All right, so I do have like a little interesting tidbit I want to throw in about One Winged Angel Rebirth when we get to that point. Are you ready to get to One Winged Angel?
All right, let's do it.
So this is from the Ultimania, right? So this is coming from the I suppose this is the composer. It's written or it's an excerpt from oh man, I'm so sorry, Yasunori Nishiki. Okay, cool.
He did the arrangement for this version of it. So
okay.
He's the one who put this one together. So like, yeah, he's the guy who did this version of it.
Okay, cool, awesome. One of the most famous anecdotes about the original version of One Winged Angel is that Nobuo Uematsu wrote the song in song's phrases completely out of order and only later assembled them in a way that felt right. When I worked on my arrangement, I decided to disassemble the song and then reconstruct it again. I guess it really is a rebirth in a sense. So that is something I really wanted to point out because this doesn't really have much to do with the music, and maybe it will. Maybe we can tie it in there. But that part right there really stuck with me because I was like, disassembling it and putting it back together is essentially what I feel like they're going to do with Rebirth. And like when he says, I guess it really is a rebirth in that sense. So so when they say in those interviews and they're saying like, oh yeah, we may not hit the same order of locations. We may not, you might be like, oh, why was this excluded? And then it'll come back around. Is basically saying they're deconstructing the story, and then just going to put it back together just like they did with One Winged Angel Rebirth. Like deconstruct it and put it back in a way that they feel fits. So do you go to Rocket Town before you go to Wu-Tai? Who knows? Do you go here or here? Maybe we don't even go through the Mithril Mines. Maybe there's they take that path that goes around Midgar's mountain. Who knows? All right. So I mean, they were walking to Calm. So, but there's that was something that stuck with me. And then when you get the One Winged Angel Rebirth being the title of this song, it really has some strong implications here. So yeah. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Stephen.
So I have the material Ultimania that has that quote in there, but I didn't actually remember him saying that specifically. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. I didn't think about it that way, but that's a good point. Now, of course, that all depends on how much they're going to deconstruct and reconstruct the story. So I do think part of like the whole don't expect to necessarily visit all the same places. I think one of the very obvious like elephants in the room was Fort Condor. Because like we got the Fort Condor like mini game. So I wonder like if that's gonna pop up in a different place or in an entirely different context in Rebirth, because it's weird that there's a board game like in universe for this thing. But then of course maybe there's like Crisis Core locations, Advent Children locations too. But I do wonder if like are they gonna actually like reorganize the map in some way, or like
that would be because I've been very much looking at the map. This is aside from the music. I'm sorry that would detour here. But yeah, I have been really looking at this map and analyzing the map and everything. And I'm working on a video right now of like my predicted path now that we know things are a little going to be a little bit different. And then also with that quote from the Ultimania here about this song, it's made me think like, all right, when I mapped it out, like it works out perfectly according to like what happens, and if I chaptered them out, I'm like, this is perfect. It leads you right up to the Forgotten City. Like this is perfect. 18 chapters from Calm to the Forgotten Capital. That's perfect. It fits beautifully. So I was like, this is what I think is going to happen. But now I'm looking at it like, all right, how can I disassemble and reassemble this? and then I'm looking at the map and I'm like, I don't know, man, because the original really flowed perfectly with the map. I doubt that they would change the map though. Like unless if they put like, oh hey, this mountain had a path through it that goes right to Rocket Town or something.
So here's the thing. The original version of One Winged Angel flowed perfectly. And then they deconstructed it and redid it. And I'm FF7 Music. That's my thing. So I don't want to be like negative, but like One Winged Angel Rebirth is pretty disjointed in a lot of spots. Now I think it works pretty well in game.
Yeah, when you're playing the game,
which is the most important part. But when you listen to that theme, like if you're really familiar with the original version of the theme and you listen to Rebirth, it's like, wow, they're going like all over the place.
Yeah.
Like they'll start with like, like the beginning section, and then we'll go to like the fourth section, and then back to the first, and then the second. I mean, there's like, I was listening to it so much I felt like I was getting like whiplash. So you might be trying to do this logically, but maybe you just need to like
maybe I just throw all of it out.
You go to Rocket Town, and then
we're going to Rocket Town first,
and then you go to Cosmo Canyon, and then back to Rocket Town.
We meet Sid at Calm, and he takes us on the tiny Bronco over to Rocket Town. We're skipping everything.
But yeah, I don't know if there's gonna be anything to like that reconstructing thing, but I definitely think Advent or One Winged Angel Rebirth again was very intentionally tied to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yeah. And
I feel like Rebirth is going to, I mean, Remake was a lot more Sephiroth centric than the original was.
Mm-hmm.
I think Rebirth is playing into that. Like, I think this is very much like centered around Sephiroth and whatever he's doing, and the whole idea that he was the one who, kind of manipulated the party into defeating the Whispers for him, so that he could be free or whatever. And now we have One Winged Angel Rebirth. Now Sephiroth's kind of rebirth or, regenesis coming back, whatever you want to call it. And that's leading directly into the next game. I feel that's what I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you said Genesis, and I was like, whoa, okay, stop it.
I said regenesis, but yes.
Wait a second.
Genesis is going to be in Rebirth.
Yes, he will, absolutely.
He's going to make your peace with that one, guys.
100%.
Listen all.
So that's basically what I got out of it. Basically, and it seems like you too, with the deconstruction of it and then reassembling it, and that could be, could have some heavy story implications there. Did you find anything else in the music cues?
So what I was one thing that I looked for is to see if they actually changed the lyrics up at all and had the choir sing something from like Advent One Winged Angel. They do not. It is all taken straight from the original version.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing elite. Okay, so I'll preface this or go back and say this retroactively that I don't know Latin. I don't speak it. I don't understand it.
Well, what are you doing on the show, man? No, I'm just kidding.
He's like, dude, we're looking for
language. For the Latin major.
We want linguists on Final Fantasy, right? But so I pulled up like the lyrics online, and when I'm looking at them and then hearing it, I'm like, oh, okay, I can see what they're saying. Mm-hmm. And so based off of that, I don't hear anything different. They're just singing a lot of the lines over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So I didn't find anything there. And really, I didn't find anything that hasn't been revealed before in terms of like, oh, the music's doing something new. But they do have Whisper's theme does play in like the kind of like the last major phase of the theme in the battle. And it's actually bookended by Those Who Fight plays right before you go into Whisper's theme, and then Those Who Fight Further plays right after you come out of it. And they're very small snippets, and they are so obscure, it took me forever to find them, and it's only because the Material Ultimania, Nishiki actually said in there that he put them on the either end of Whisper's theme.
Okay.
But yeah, that was so obscure. I was listening to, like, I was pulling my hair out, and then I was like, I'm going back to the Ultimania and seeing if they say anything, and he did. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just going back and forth, and it's really chaotic. And again, I think that kind of fits at least how I felt. Like by that point of the game, I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I'm just like in a state of chaos myself.
Yeah. So it's very intentional, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I felt like I was turning into Jack from Stranger Paradise with all the chaos.
Chaos. When you said that like it goes well with the gameplay, I really do think it does. Actually, when I was listening to it, I'm in the same boat as you. Like when I just listened to the track off the OST, I'm like, whiplash. I don't like this is not my one-winged angel, man. And then when you're playing it though, it really does go with the flow. Like, you know, you have, I think, 3 phases in the fight, and it kind of like starts off with that, you know, like this feels very calm, or not calm. Oh, that's actually going into the thing. You know, like you're just kind of getting that first battle right, and then all of a sudden you're gonna get to that second phase. It's picking up, and then you get to that third phase.
Yeah, and like when you begin the third phase, it actually gets more structured and more like the original, and they do that a lot in this game. They, I think the big one people have pointed out is Genova quickening.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not until you get to the third phase that you hit the more traditional version of the theme. And actually, they pulled a lot from the Advent Children version of that theme with like the with the electric guitars and stuff. But they do that with like the Airbuster too, except that they kind of reverse it, where you start off with a really familiar version of Those Who Fight Further, and then it like gets. And actually, the guy who did the I forget which one it was. Hold on, this is embarrassing. I need to know this stuff. It was Tadayoshi Makino did the arrangement for Genova Quickening and the Airbuster, and he was like, I took the opposite philosophy where, you know, I had already done the Airbuster and did it like,
yeah,
jump right in with the familiar. So in Quickening, he wanted to do it the opposite. But they do that a lot with these themes where they'll do like more experimental, like newer stuff, and then they'll go into like a more traditional version to kind of like bring you back to that sense of, you know, familiarity and stuff. And I think it's really interesting. And, you know, I do joke about One Winged Angel Rebirth a lot about like how messy it is, but it works. I understand what they were doing and what the goal was, and it works pretty well. And I thought throwing in, you know, a little bit of Whisper's theme in there too was it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then like speaking of like Genova, I kind of want to go back to just for a moment. I forgot to say this about Arbiter of Fate Rebirth, and like kind of I'm trying to force this. I really am. So like I was like, there's got to be a Genova connection. Feel like there's got to be. But anyways, I didn't find anything. But I did hear that the Latin, like, you know, I can't understand what they're saying. Obviously, there's no. Like lyrics anywhere.
Yeah,
Nobody
no
has
lyrics. Nothing in the liner notes or anything.
No, I dug deep into the internet and I could not find anything.
I've been doing this for I've searched periodically over the last like 6 months or so, and can't find anything.
No, but like so like there are lyrics in both Quickening and Arbiter of Fate Rebirth. And I can't understand what they're saying. For a little bit, I was like trying to put together if they're saying something similar, because that would tie in Genova and them. It's in a different pitch and everything like that. But I'll let you hear what I was on to. So for like Quickening, I think it's where you at?
Timestamp this one too. So
yeah. All right, and then you get. There it is.
So this is Whisper's theme. They have the same vocals.
Really? Okay, cool. Okay,
absolutely.
okay.
No, actually, I think there was something. I don't think there's new vocals, but like at this part of the theme, there is, or when you get, specifically once you get to about 221-ish on this theme, you hear them repeat this, but in Rebirth, it's like it gets way more animated, and in my opinion, it feels a lot more emotional once you get about up to here. So you can kind of hear it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's like, it feels more like it feels like even heavier, and that line is taken. Those vocals are taken directly from Whisper's theme, which they haven't released lyrics for
Yeah,
either.
I would love to know what they're saying here. You know what I mean?
I would too. And Genova Quickening is saying, like, what are they singing in here? Because there's several sections in Genova Quickening where there's vocals, but
yeah,
it didn't appear in any other version of it, and I don't know what they're saying, obviously, because
yeah.
They ain't singing in English. So.
Right, yeah. I mean, so there you have it. We know that there's a connection with the Arbiter of Fate with the Whispers, obviously. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. And if anything, it would be reaching, I guess, for Genova to be connected to the Whispers.
I just want my Genova so much.
I want it, man. I want Genova in there, man.
There are a lot of people online that are really like pushing for Genova to become like very central to this.
Yeah, I know you're like, Yeah.
I see. I always thought of Genova more as a plot device than a character, so that's where I am. But,
yeah. Okay.
But I mean, there are worse antagonistic forces they could bring in, and it's named Genesis. So.
Oh
no. Actually, there's other ones too. Like I mean. God forbid they bring in like Zirconiad or something.
Oh well, who knows, man?
There's other things they could bring in, or like I've seen some people that like really like, they should bring in Minerva, and I'm like, maybe as an optional boss, but
yeah, I feel like I feel like those are going to be. This is just us speculating into the future now, aside from music, but like I really do feel like Minerva is going to be at odds with Aerith, because like when I was listening to the music. And I was listening to the music without sound effects and everything, playing the game, which is such an incredible thing to do. But when Aerith is talking on the highway, right before entering the singularity, she's basically saying like, there's no way the planet would want like, or no, was that Turquoise Hammer that translated that? I'm picking that up. Turquoise Hammer translate, where it's like surely this is not what the planet would want, and I'm like, that's a very important little line you put in there, I feel like, in my opinion, to where it is what the planet want, and the planet is Minerva, I feel like.
Could be. My thing about that is if they are going to bring in other antagonistic forces, I think Genova's the best one.
Yeah, he's like, okay, look, you got me to say I want Genova.
I mean, I just think Sephiroth is such a fantastic villain that you just run it with him. But,
yes, please, yes. I still want, with all said and done, I want Sephiroth to be the main thing.
Yeah, because the other thing is you bring in other antagonists and you run that risk of doing a Sephiroth redemption arc.
I really do think that might be where we're. I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not saying I think it, but the thought occurred to me.
It does occur to me,
especially during the Edge of Creation scene where he's like, let's defy destiny together. Like,
he's always smiling too. He's got something up his sleeve. Everything's going according to plan.
That could be something totally different, and I hope it is. But the thoughts in my brain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's not a theory, by the way. It's just a thought. Like I'm prepping for it so that I don't end up disappointed.
I am ready for anything at this point. So like I'm on the opposite side of like other people saying they believe it is going to go the way it has been. I am so on the side where like, hey, I've accepted that it's not. So please don't tell me. Don't tell me it's going back. But
I'm just expecting anything. So I'm wondering if I'm wondering if I'm going to be surprised, because it's like I'm expecting anything. So is anything going to surprise me? Yeah. we'll find out. We'll see what happens. I'm playing Rebirth when it comes out, obviously. So.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. 100%.
They've still got me playing the game.
Exactly. I'm right there with you.
They're getting my money, so they're getting what they want.
All right, so One Winged Angel. Did you see anybody in chat with anything to say on One Winged Angel? Or did you have any more notes there, Stephen, as well?
Not really. If anybody is curious where those other phrases of those who fight and those who fight further come from, I can speak to that, because I timestamped all this stuff because I'm a obsessive completionist.
You did the work.
I don't have anything. I don't have anything like, let's break down an analysis for this, because really, again, it's pretty faithful in terms of like it doesn't throw in like things from Genova or other themes. It is just One Winged Angel. It's just
deconstructed.
Deconstructed, reassembled, and then you have a little bit of Whisper's theme in there with the battle themes.
I think if there's anything to take away from it, it's what we basically said at the top of this discussion on One Winged Angel Rebirth. Is basically like what the material Ultimania was talking about, the arrangement was deconstructed and put back together, and then he says it really is a rebirth in a sense, and I'm like,
and I think this is really saying, like, I think also it's saying that this is Sephiroth like fully like
kicking off the part 2
point. Yeah, because I really do think I really do agree that I think this is like OG Advent Children Sephiroth, like, who was like imprisoned by the Whisper Harbinger or whatever, and then he breaks free and like he's fully like himself again. Like, this is him. He's got his full power back, and like maybe didn't before. I don't 100%. Like, I don't have like a perfectly solid airtight theory about it, but I think it has something to do with all of that stuff.
All those memories that were being
other people have spoken. Yeah, other people have spoken to this and have done it much better than I have. So you can probably go watch. I would assume Sleep Easy talked about it, and MJ I know talked about it in this Easter egg series for Chapter 18, and so go watch that. They can articulate it.
Exactly.
But I do think that is like, that's why it's called Rebirth, and I think that's at least one of the. They love their double entendres, so it's probably operating on multiple levels. But
and also I would also like to hear the timestamps for the parts of Fight On and Those Who Fight Further. For this, because one of the things I found interesting in the original was when listening to Birth of a God, after a while you realize that it's a mixture between Sephiroth's theme and the battle theme, and then seeing them do that with this, we didn't get Birth of a God, but this was kind of like a nod to, an amalgamation of different soundtracks in the boss battle theme.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, we don't get anything quite that integrated. But it, Nishiki was said in the Ultimate, like it plays before and after. So Those Who Fight is like probably around. I think if you go to 832 or some whereabouts, you'll hear it, and then it goes into Whisper's theme, and then as it comes out of Whisper's theme, you hear a very, very, very obscure part from Those Who Fight Further. Then I think around 902 we come out of this, and then we go to a very obscure part of Those Who Fight Further.
Just a little bit.
So I've got this quote here where he said, let the battles begin and fight on between whispers to make it all flow together. I honestly don't think many people even notice the fight on motif I chose, so in retrospect, I regret not making it a bit more obvious. Because I would have never picked up on that, and then when I read that, I'm like, okay, so it's something really obscure, and I'm like, oh, okay. I actually had a hard time picking it out from the OG version. I listened to it a few times. Like, I'm not 100. I can't speak to exactly where that part plays, but it's really subtle. But anyway, Vinny, that's where it is.
Nice,
awesome.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, and again, it loops in game, so it's during phase 3. So that's when all 3 party members are there. And I know that rotates depending on choices you make or something, but that's during that phase of the battle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're playing on hard mode, you'll probably hear it a couple times. Yeah.
Even normal mode, I felt honestly, every time I fought him in hard mode, that's after I've already gotten the Goddamn rung. So
that's true. I've
just been able to kind of
start the match off with a climb hazard. Awesome.
So we have a decently chunky list of anticipated songs to hear from Rebirth. Whenever you guys are ready for that.
All right,
I think it's good. I think we're about ready to hop into that, right?
I like that conversation. So, thanks so much for breaking all that down, sharing your notes, Steve. I really appreciate that. Before we do you have any other thing? I think you said you're ready to go. Like, I don't like staying on the topic of like little.
I think I'm about ready to. Yeah, I mean, we can move on. If anybody in chat or whatever is like, man, I really want to see these timestamp breakdowns, let me know, and I can put this in a format to share as like a shared document.
Nice.
if you don't care to, then
don't make me do the work.
yeah. Well, I mean, I've already done the work. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you're hurting my feelings if you say no. But I know sometimes people are like, oh, I want to see this, and so if you want it, let me know. If people say they want it, I can share it.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for doing all that. So let's get into Rebirth, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and the music that we're the most anticipating, that we're most excited to hear, and anything else like that. So, like, did you want to? I mean, do you want to start with us and then go in the chat, Vinny, or do you want to go with chat's got?
Chat has a decently long list. I guess if you guys need a little bit of time to think, or maybe chat's suggestions will spark something, but it's up to you. We can go with chat, or we could hear what Steven's most anticipated for.
Yeah, let's go with Steven first, and then we'll go. Yeah, what you got, Steven?
Okay, so music I want to hear in Rebirth. So I'm going to start off with something that nobody probably would think. Maybe not necessarily in Rebirth, but at least in Part 3, I would really love to hear just a very small snippet of something from Final Fantasy X.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Just to kind of like a little nugget there for you. Oh wow, that was out of left field, out of nowhere.
Yeah.
What?
Okay, yeah. The music. I gotta think about all this stuff. So you know, we got this Easter egg with the Shinra mask in that picture, and it was so and remake, and it was so subtle. And it's like, okay, this isn't something universe breaking. This doesn't like alter like the direction of the plot. It's just something that gives us like additional confirmation that this universe is connected to Final Fantasy X, like people have been speculating for many years. I think something like that with the music would be really cool, and I don't want it to be like, you know,
obvious, right?
Yeah, I don't want it to be something like, you know, we go into a town and we start hearing like the thunder planes or something. Like I'm not saying that, but like something like, okay, maybe like we get to the island where you get like Knights of the Round, and then you like go into the cave and like maybe like an instrumental version of Hymn of the Faith or something plays.
Oh, man.
Just something like that. And something that's like it's kind of out of the way, obscure, but it's just like a nice little nod. And you know, cool. For that example in particular, then that could even be like, oh hey, are they drawing a connection between like the summons here and the Aeons from you know, it would be kind of cool. And then
that would be interesting.
People would have a field day with it. And,
I love that.
Yeah. So and maybe that's more Part 3 than Rebirth, but I think that would be kind of cool just to hear like a little something.
Just a little something. Make it like an Easter egg, just as like
Easter egg. Not like we're at a pivotal moment in the game and then you know, we hear Tidus's theme or something like that. Yeah, I don't want that. But something little Easter egg, you know, something small. I think it would be really cool.
That's very interesting. Okay.
So that was my first one.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Benny. Sorry.
So since Final Fantasy X is my favorite, and when this theory came out that, you know, Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy VII are a shared universe and everything, when I first heard the theory, I always thought, okay, Final Fantasy VII came first, and then, you know, Sin was born because, you know, Midgar got too big, stuff like that and everything. But then once I read further into the theories, it was Final Fantasy X came first and led to Final Fantasy VII. And so it's just like, but because of I understand why that theory is, because you see what looks to be Shinra grown up in that employee photo. So that's what makes people think that 10 happened first and everything. But I agree with you. I'd really like to get another little bit of Final Fantasy X, you know, Easter egg in there, because then that just makes me believe that Final Fantasy X Part 3 is
X Part 3 is the sequel to Remake.
Right.
Remake trilogy.
I think in 10.2 there was also something where Shinra, and I've only played 10.2 once, and it was very, very long time ago, so I don't remember exactly, but I think there was something in there where he was talking about the concept of like extracting energy from like the far plane, and like that's another reason why people I think thought it was like a distant prequel, because That was similar, and it's like, oh, he's the ancestor, like he's the original Shinra. I think that was part of it. But yeah, I agree. I think having an Easter egg here or there, maybe just one or two per game, but something with the music would be really cool. And the lead composer for the remake project, or at least so far, is Masashi Hamauzu, and he was one of the 4 composers for 10. So you could, he could maybe rework one of his themes, or I don't know.
Yeah, it's a very interesting one. I like that. I like that you came out of left field with that one. Like,
yeah, I was just
whoa, okay, that's.
Felt like I had to start off with something.
Yeah, that would really. I was like, okay. So what's second on your list?
Yeah, because everybody was thinking I was going to say Cosmo Canyon.
I mean, look, I know that's going to be said, right? Like, it's going to be said. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even have to mention it again because I already talked about it, and I know some people in the chat definitely said it too. My second thing is still a little bit off the rails, but more compilation themes. We got some Advent Children in remake. We literally had an arrangement of the Promised Land from Advent Children, which up to this point had only ever played in Advent Children, so it's very specific.
Is it like the same exact version, or is it?
No.
Okay.
No. No. I'm pretty sure we covered this last time, but it's an instrumental arrangement called Promised Land Cycle of Souls. It plays right after the first time Cloud encounters Sephiroth in Chapter 2, when he sees Nibelheim burning, all that stuff. After that scene, it plays until you meet Aerith on a Loveless Street. So.
Okay.
But yeah, so they had arrangements, and then there were other snippets of Advent Children music sprinkled in, so I would love to hear more stuff like that. Obviously, Intermission had Dirge of Cerberus music in it as well, and we need some Crisis Core.
Yeah, we got subtext saying that it definitely got to be in Rebirth.
Crisis Core. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, we're gonna have Zack segments, right? Like, it's gonna happen. Like, and I think there are probably gonna be gameplay segments with Zack. I don't think it's just gonna be cutscenes. I could be wrong.
I guess it all depends on how Crisis Core Reunion goes when that gets released. So
that's true. Could lead right into it.
Well, that gets into a point about that. So they're rearranging the background music for that game.
So
and the same. Actually, they're using the same. The guy who did Crisis Core, Takehata Ishimoto, is doing the rearrangements as well. And I'm wondering, like, are they going to use some of those in Rebirth, or would it be entirely new? And I lean towards they would still do entirely new stuff, but...
Well, I mean, like, if you're going to Benora, like, they have to pull that from Crisis Core.
Right. Well, so what I meant is like an entirely new.
Okay.
Or would they use the Crisis Core reunion thing, like lift those directly and put them in there, and is that why they're rearranging? But
yeah,
I don't necessarily think so, but I thought it was worth mentioning anyway, because maybe. And I have a lot of questions about Crisis Core's like new soundtrack.
Yeah.
And I have no answers, but.
What kinds of questions do you have?
I'm wondering. So they alternately said, okay, a new soundtrack, and then they said new background music. So those are two different things. So the background music would just be like the in-game music, but it wouldn't apply to like necessarily cutscenes and definitely not like the full motion videos.
Okay.
Like the pre-rendered scenes, like that's not background music.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering like how much, and I think I read somewhere now that they're just gonna leave Y as it is, like the theme song with Ayaka that plays at the end.
Yeah.
But I think they said they're just gonna reuse like the original version of that. But I am curious, like if they would potentially re-record it. But that would have already been done, I think, because they're at least theoretically not that far away from release at this point. So.
Okay.
But yeah, and I'm curious, like how much is stuff gonna change, like. Are they trying to make it more dynamic like they did with remakes music? Because like I think part of it they want to rearrange some stuff because the battle system is changing somewhat, so it's going to have a different feel and a different flow. So like, is it done to match that?
Yeah, that's a good point too. Like, so if you're in a certain area, and remake did this so many times where it would like blend the area that you're with the battle theme. So instead of activating combat mode, and then like it's the same battle. Hopefully that's taken out too. But
let's go into the battle. We don't need an AI telling us that we're.
I always thought that was.
If they want to do like a VR thing, like they did with Remake, like a VR mode, and then throw it in there, that would be kind of funny.
Yeah, that would be funny. Yeah. Yeah, so like that is a good point to blend if they're going to blend the area that you're with the battle theme rather.
Because my thing too is like they didn't really need to rearrange Crisis Core soundtrack like they did OG, because OG was all like MIDI, like you know, like you couldn't really put that in there. Although some people have done mods where they've done that.
I know.
And that's fine if you want to do it. I mean, I love the OG soundtrack too, but but Crisis Core was done all on like actual real instruments, like, actual electric guitar, bass, all that. So they don't necessarily need to. So I thought it was interesting that they chose to rearrange the soundtrack or the music.
Point.
So I'm like, so I'm curious to see what they're going to do. Of course, we got a little bit of it in the trailer. They said was the rearranged version of God, I forgot what theme it was now. Somebody in chat might know. I forget which one it was, but. So we got a little bit of it. It didn't sound too different, so we'll see what happens. But I'm curious anyway.
Huh. All right, well that's cool. Yeah, I agree. I think pulling some from the compilation would be a good idea. And now that we have Deep Ground is introduced and everything like that, if they sneak their way back into Rebirth, I really do think they're going to be safe for intergrades and stuff. But compilation being pulled, that's a really cool idea.
Maybe even if they do like some Turk scenes, like maybe throw like one or two things from Before Crisis.
I really hope, because like that's another thing that I was thinking about for Rebirth soundtrack. I'm like, okay, well, we've already heard the Turks theme, so when they come back on screen, like let's say in the Mithril Mines, are we going to hear that theme again, or are they going to kind of change it up a little bit? And I really, really hope at some point they do a more faithful to the original, the more of like, the tongue clacks and the finger snaps, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's what I want to hear, so hopefully they bring that back for like a moment where the Turks are there on screen. And the feel of that song would go well with like when they're chilling at Wutai on vacation or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I spotlighted that theme like a week or two ago, the original version, and I specifically used them at the Turtles Paradise because I was like, it fits. They could use different arrangements. They may reuse some of the same themes in Rebirth. I don't know that they won't, but. Yeah, we did get a little bit of a more faithful arrangement in the office scene at the end of chapter 16, where like Reno's like lying on the couch, he's all like beat up, and this song's like talking about like we spared other people the guilty conscience of dropping the plate. Or
That's right. Yeah.
So that is a little bit of like a more faithful arrangement to the original, but I definitely still would love to hear like a really faithful arrangement of the adulterous thing, or and then maybe in like a scene or two, like something from Before Crisis would be kind of cool. That's a Turk-centric game, obviously. So.
Yeah, and when I put out the question earlier this week, what people were most looking forward to, MJ Gallagher, award-winning FF7 novelist, author, he retweeted it and he was just like, I really love the mixtures of the battle themes. Like he's looking forward to hearing that. And honestly, it got me really thinking, combining that to add on to the conversation rather than just saying Cosmo Canyon like everybody else. Because Cosmo Canyon is my most...
we all do want to hear that.
That's the most anticipated. It really is my most anticipated track. I am so excited to hear that.
I can't totally disagree, honestly.
Huh?
I said I can't totally disagree.
Right, yeah. It's just so good, man. And like what got me thinking was like, of course, the town theme is what I'm most excited to hear. But I hope, I guess sticking on topic, like when they blend it when you're in the Cave of the Gi, right? And you're gonna have maybe even like Let the Battles Begin in a tribal drums and stuff like that. Like imagine that. Imagine those wind instruments playing the battle theme and it kind of blending it with Cosmo Canyon. That's going to be really cool to hear. I can't wait to hear that. Another thing that I would love, I have to point out for Cosmo Canyon is I hope that they keep it, hard hitting, like, and with that bass groove and everything.
Yeah, I was going to say that heavy bass.
Yeah, I really hope they keep that because one issue, and it's not that big of an issue, but like one thing that I've noticed with the remake OST soundtrack is they really made it orchestral. Like they really made it like it's big, right? Like it's loud
Bombastic,
and
yeah.
bombastic, right? I really hope that for Cosmo Canyon, because I heard the Distance World version, and I wasn't really a big fan of that, to be honest with you. I didn't really like the Distant World version because it almost felt like too much, whereas just keep it zoned in on that, like those hard-hitting drums, wind instruments and stuff like that. And you know, of course, make basically the original soundtrack, make it big, but don't go too far with it. I try to make an example out of the remake OST where I guess the Turks theme is one way to, if you want to circle back to that, but basically
Mako Reactor.
The Mako Reactor.
Everybody talks about Mako Reactor.
That's
They
true.
made that entirely orchestral, and a lot of people are upset because they wanted to hear like that more like the synths, and the bells and stuff. So that's I think Mako Reactor is a perfect example of what you're talking about.
There you go. Yes, exactly. So I hope that they keep it narrow focused on Cosmo Canyon, like really kind of like even to make it even more tribal and like that fit that theme. Almost just take away the orchestra, like just like take it away and just do wind instruments and the tribal drums and see what happens. But I really that's one thing I hope that they do the Cosmo Canyon like justice, but I'm also very excited to hear the other themes that are going to blend in, like the boss battle blend in with it from the like when you're battling the freaking wall. So stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually two of the things that I put were more mashups and like more creativity with like the way they utilize the theme. So things like combining multiple themes. They did this with Aerith's theme and the main theme in chapter 17 when you're in her room in the Shinra building. There's an arrangement of Aerith's theme that's called Aerith's theme etc., and it's like her theme and then it goes into the main theme and it kind of like goes back and forth. And I love that theme. It was so good. I want to hear more things like that. Like, give me like Tifa's theme and Aerith's theme, or like whatever. I don't care. Like, give me more of those, and then more creativity. Like you were saying, I want to hear more stuff like themes that like aren't battle themes be turned into them and stuff. So like maybe like a battle version of Cosmo Canyon. They did do this with. There's an arrangement of Those Who Fight that plays in the Children's Hideout in chapter 8. And it plays like in the field, like outside of battle, and it's like it's the battle theme, but it's like a field version of it. So like I want to see stuff like that, kind of like recontextualizing themes and doing them in a different way. I think would be really cool. And Cosmo Canyon is a great example because I think you could do a really good boss battle theme, especially with those drums, like speed up the tempo and all that kind of stuff. So those were things that I had as well. That I put on my list.
Cool. I know Vinny also. I'm sure you have this on there because this is one of your favorite moments in Final Fantasy VII. So do you have any like? So if I throw this over to you, is this going to be kind of a good segue for you, Vinny?
Well, I was actually going to segue into it anyway because of something Subtext said.
Okay.
But one of the things, because Subtext had a lot of songs or OSTs that are actually really good that would be interesting to hear in Rebirth, but one of them was The Great Warrior, which is Seto's theme.
Oh god, they can do that so good, man.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I knew somebody was gonna loop it from Cosmo Canyon to The Great Warrior.
Right, and with that, if they put a lot of thought and effort into The Great Warrior, I would also like to see them put a lot of thought and effort into fleshing Seto's character out in Cosmo Canyon. So I think that would be really good for Cosmo Canyon, go along with what you're saying with the tribal music and the wind instruments and like with all the earthy tones of Cosmo Canyon. You get those like earthy tribal desert feel and everything. But yeah, when Subtext said that, I was like, yeah, The Great Warrior is definitely something I want to hear.
I didn't think of them expanding Seto's character, but like, and now I'm thinking like, oh man, maybe you're in the Cave of G, and it's like you have moments, kind of like in the Train Graveyard chapter, where it's like they had moments where they were seeing like apparition, maybe they like have something where like you see like flashbacks of like Seto like going through the or something like that'd be pretty cool.
Or like here's another segue back to that in Final Fantasy X when they're in Xanarkand and they're seeing the Pyroflies.
Yes.
They could have something similar. That could be your little callback to Final Fantasy X, the Pyroflies in the Geek Cave.
Oh wow, yeah.
But
well, when you defeat some enemies in Remake, they dissipate into life change particles, kind of like the Pyroflies a little bit.
Right.
I think it's cool. So yeah, there's definitely like kind of connections. Like it seems those two things are pretty related. I don't know.
I got Great Warrior playing in the background right now so I just like kind of have it going off of my soundtrack on the computer so you guys can't hear it, but like so the Great Warrior is almost the opposite of what I was saying earlier with Cosmo Canyon. Now is the time to bring in that orchestra and really like drive home that feeling, man, because you can almost hear it, but it's all synths and MIDI and right, like so like in the old version, so they can really make this moment like super impactful with the music. I mean, even though obviously the original soundtrack did a great job in that way, in that respect as well. But
some of the themes in OG were definitely like dying to be orchestrated.
Right.
Some of them were back. I mean, One Winged Angel, obviously, and I think Air's theme was like the main theme. There's definite themes in there that it's like those needed an orchestration.
Yeah, this is good. It's going to be so good. Great Warrior actually might have rose up to one of my top most anticipated now that I'm listening to it and knowing what's going to accompany that. Yeah.
All right, so am I going for my anticipated ones? Because mine aren't as popular or iconic.
Okay.
My number one is obviously Cosmo Canyon, but I think we drilled that into the ground. I think everybody. This also isn't the first podcast where we've spoken about wanting to hear Cosmo Canyon, but
that's true.
So for me, I would like to hear Buried by Snow, and my other one that I'm most anticipated is Secret of the Deep. So those two songs aren't impactful.
I'll start with Secret of the Deep here.
You're gonna. Buried by Snow is Icicle Inn's theme, and then Secret of the Deep is what you hear when you're in the submarine. Those aren't very impactful songs, but I think they are composed very perfectly to set up the atmosphere of where you are.
Absolutely.
Like Secret of the Deep, you kind of get that ominous, that ominous feeling where you're underwater and the music makes you feel like you're underwater, and it also has that ominous like it feels like something's following you, and Emerald is down there, and it's just this big, hulking creature that is, I mean, the first time you've ever met it, and then you're like, I'm just gonna fly right into this thing, and then it just decimates you. And then there's the timer. There's also the timer that you weren't expecting to see, and you're like, uh-oh, like what did I do?
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting when they give the battle music for Emerald, for all the weapons, really. That's gonna be always really cool to hear. I'm gonna play Buried in the Snow real quick because I want to just to kind of add some context in case people maybe forgot what that sounds like. So,
but with Buried by Snow, it's also one of the it's got that chimey xylophone in it where it kind of feels like I guess a weird analogy or metaphor or whatever, but it kind of feels like the xylophone is actually being played by different sized icicles. It just has that snowy, frozen icicle, like you are where it's cold. That for whatever reason, that the atmosphere of that song makes you feel like this is what would be playing in a snowy forest or something. Like it's very, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but
I get what you're saying. Yeah, like
it's an atmospheric music, definitely. Yeah.
But I would like to see them do it, in this day and age, and really set the atmosphere with those locations, like running around the Icicle Inn area, hearing that, but in Rebirth or whatever Rebirth 3 is going to be, so like Requiem or whatever it is.
Samuel
So-
says it's frosty. It's just frosty. That's the way you describe this song.
Absolutely.
It is.
I love those. I love that you pick those songs. That's they're a little more obscure that people might not like have thought of, but like
yeah.
yeah.
It's just those two stood out to me the most when thinking about like, because you know me, my favorite part of Final Fantasy music is boss battle themes
Right.
and battle themes in general. Aside from a fleeting dream, which is has nothing to, is not a battle theme. That's I think the only that's the only song from Final Fantasy that made my top 10 that wasn't
Battle
a
theme.
battle theme. But so it just, those stood out to me because I felt like out of the entire game, those set the tone for the atmosphere the most for the area that you were exploring.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So did you have any more from chat?
I do.
That
I
might
have
have been-
I have a lot from chat.
Oh, okay.
I'll throw in one real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
That's also a little bit more obscure, which is Desert Wasteland.
Desert Wasteland.
Plays in Kurl Prison. That is actually Uematsu also said that was one of his 3 favorites.
It's got that. And then, yeah.
I feel like that. I feel like kind of like Buried by Snow. That one's pretty atmospheric as well.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is gonna be
the-
cool, man.
The Coral Prison one gives you that, like, all hope is lost. Like, you're in jail, with the weight around your ankle, just breaking rocks just for the sake of breaking rocks and stuff.
Not to mention what happens at the end of that little segment.
I know.
Oh man.
Which leads me into another theme I really want to hear, which is Barrett's theme. We never got it. We didn't really get much of it in Remake, but that's entirely like involved with like narrative stuff. That's why I want to hear that.
Yeah.
Another thing that this is just kind of like a side note. One theme that really stands out in this game is when there's no music. So when there's something going on and there's no music, like when you're talking to Sephiroth in the library, there's like no music, and then once you get to a certain part of dialogue, that's when his theme drops in. Or when Aerith is talking to you and she's asking if you can hear the cries of the planet, and then you hear 1997's version of what the planet crying would sound like.
Yes.
But those moments where they actually have no music are impactful as well, because it's like, there's nothing setting up the scene. But all right, so for chat we have subtext says an underrated song that he wants to hear in Rebirth is Costa del Sol.
Oh heck yeah, dude. Oh yes.
I don't know if that's underrated, but yes, it's very good.
We have from Samuel, we have Interrupted by Fireworks.
Oh, that's such a great song, man. They're gonna do so good with that one.
I think so too.
Gold Saucer theme and Cosmo Canyon. I think Cosmo Canyon pops up a lot in this.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Anytime I talk about it with people, it's like, I really want to hear Cosmo Canyon.
I'm really happy that's such a
that and
requested song.
Rufus's welcoming ceremony actually.
Oh, I was about to throw that one in there. I was about to get mine. I was like, wait a second though, guys. Let me. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Yeah, I'm playing it right now. You guys can't hear it, but like this is one of those songs. I don't know about anybody else, but like it just pops in my head randomly, like it'll just be randomly in my head. Dun, 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 dun. Like I'm just like it'll just randomly pop in while I'm doing like chores or something. And of course, don't forget about "It's Hard to Stand on Both Feet."
Yes, I'd actually have previously mentioned that one, and yes, I love that one. It's such a goofy theme, and I love it.
We have from Samuel, secretly hope for more versions of things like Those Who Fight, like a proper jazz organ version, like the original would be so cool. And I believe it was also Samuel. I tried scrolling up, I couldn't. Oh wait, I think it's up here a little bit. No, but the jazzy prelude to Final Fantasy VII's OG demo. So apparently there was a different prelude for the demo. He said he would like to hear that.
Like a little nod to it. Like, oh, that would be interesting. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I remember seeing that one and putting that one in there. I'm like, I'm gonna add that to my spotlight list. 'Cause it's like,
one thing that I have to throw out there too is I feel like we were kind of robbed on this one in the first game. They have a chance to do this, and they have a chance to do it even like more just horror, right? The Trail of Blood, we have another chance to do that on the cargo ship, where there's a massacre on the cargo ship. And I really hope, since Remake didn't go through with having bodies all over the floor and everything, well, the cargo ship does. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I don't know if they're gonna get away with it again without having any bodies, or at least some sort of showing that there was a massacre on this ship. So they have a chance to do the Trail of Blood with a more, you know what I mean, like scary, little scary. So
hey, I'm so sorry to do this. I gotta step away for a second. Somebody's at my door. I'll be right back. I probably I do apologize.
No worries. We'll just sit here and be your DJ, guys, as we play Final Fantasy VII music. But yeah, I mean.
Do you want me to continue with chat's list?
Sure, yeah. Let me hear what else chat has to say.
All right, so we have if Barrett's theme doesn't get in there remade properly eventually, I will limit break.
Who said that? Is that Samuel?
No, Samuel.
Yeah.
And we have Legions. Legions is most hyped to hear Sid's theme.
Oh, I'm surprised we've gone this far without saying Sid's theme.
To piggyback off that a little bit, hopefully they still do like Sid's theme emotional, like that like slow guitar pluck and it's just kind of like instrumental acoustic, and hopefully they still do that where they kind of remake Sid's theme to be. Yeah. I know it. You hear it first when they're in space.
Launching a dream into space.
I guess that would be it, right? The slow one?
I think so. Yeah.
So then we also have from Subtext, he said some deep cut tracks that he would like to hear. So Steven, this is from Subtext. We have deep cut tracks that so it's who ... are you, In Search of the Man in Black, and then The Great Warrior, also Those Chosen by the Planet, and then Samuel says the track Reunion.
Song's getting me, guys.
What? No, the Sid
launching
theme?
a dream into space.
Oh yes, yeah. Yes. His theme and Launching a Dream into Space are
it's gonna be so good, man. It's so good.
We did get an arrangement of Who Are You in Remake, but it would definitely be cool to hear them revisit that again. And then I think actually I've speculated that In Search of the Man in Black actually plays the music that plays in the area right before you meet Sephiroth at the end of the highway. In chapter 18, there's like this kind of like sustained music, and I actually think that is an arrangement of In Search of the Man in Black. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm hearing there.
Dude, you said Man in Black. I don't know why, but my mind went, here comes the man. I was like, how did that sneak in there? I know you're going out of left field with Final Fantasy X, but I didn't think you were going to go Will Smith, man. Like, this is crazy. That was.
But yeah, we definitely need proper arrangements of a lot of these themes, I think.
Yeah, dude, launching it, like, honestly, I think the thing that I'm most looking forward to, the songs I'm most looking forward to, are the slower ones, like for Remake or Rebirth, because I feel like they can just be so much more than they were. Like, I mean, obviously, like I said, respect to the OG, which is still the best soundtrack of all time, in my opinion. It's just like they can make it big, and they can make it more impactful. And music goes a long way with that. So like launching a dream into space right now, like what I'm playing right now, dude, like that's gonna be incredible. Especially, but I feel like that's not Rebirth. That's obviously going to be.
I was about to say that could end up being part, because that's what people are like. Yeah. Oh yeah, I want to hear the High Wind Takes to the Skies. I'm like,
I don't. Yeah, I agree with you too.
I don't think that's going to be part 2. And then some people are like, but it plays when they steal the Tiny Bronco, and I'm like, well, that's actually a theme called "Steal the Tiny Bronco," which has like a little snippet of High Wind Takes to the Skies in it. But
yeah,
I don't think we're going to get that like full on.
Tiny Bronco is going to be the last form of transportation you get in part 2 in Rebirth. That's my opinion.
I'm really curious how they're going to do that. Why does Rufus need this little dinky?
You know what though? It might actually, like we were joking about it earlier, but it might be like Sid is just chilling with his tiny Bronco and flies you back over to Rocket Town. Like, I mean, it might happen this way. You never know. You might get it early. You got the Doom Buggy too. Don't forget about that as a transportation. That's gonna be interesting.
I'm okay with changes to the Tiny Bronco stuff as long as Palmer gets hit by that track.
Oh God, yeah. That's gonna be great.
I'm curious to see how they're going to show Sid and Shira's relationship, because it was very, it came off very domestic abusey.
It's going to be diluted, I expect.
Yeah.
I hope not.
So one of the things that, I was talking about this earlier today, actually. Watching shows like Hoarders and stuff like that, like, those shows are supposed to make you uncomfortable, right? You're supposed to feel uncomfortable.
You're not supposed to like Sid at first.
Right. But the things that make you uncomfortable, it's like, you can't shy away from it because, it happens to real people, because there are a lot of things that happens in video games that happen to real people, and if anything, it could bring light to it, or, have it somebody to be a relatable character. Like, things in media, if it makes you uncomfortable, then it's probably doing the job it set out to do.
I agree.
So
I hope they keep it.
So when you say things that make you uncomfortable because they happen in the game and happen in real life, do you also mean characters dying and not coming back to life?
Yeah, like the finality of death, this stuff
because
like that.
They're toying with that one, and they did it with Barry. So that's why I say I absolutely think Sid will be watered down. And I do think I think there's not like a not insignificant number of fans that don't want to see somebody that abusive, and I'm not really going to weigh in too much. I understand some people's point of view. I'm also more like I do kind of wish they would lean harder into it, because I think it makes his growth as a character that much stronger. But
they didn't go that route with Wall Market, so I don't feel like they're going to go that route with Sid. Like, I feel like you're probably right. I think they'll get the point across that he's he's kind of an asshole, but like I think it won't be
a lot more telling than showing.
I think he will absolutely say you got to sit down. You know what I mean? He's got to say the line. He's got to say the line. If he doesn't say the line, then I think a lot of people are going to be upset. So that might be the extent of,
but that's not directed toward Shira. That's directed toward the party.
That's right. That's directed towards the party. So he's definitely going to say that.
They can get away. I think what we're going to see a lot less of is abuse, like verbal abuse directed towards Shira.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Because
man.
I think that's what people are. Some people are going to say.
Think about. I'm watching Game of Thrones right now. Right. I'm on season 2. I hate Theron. Greyjoy, but guess what, man? By the end of it, love him. He's a good guy, right? So that's what it's the growth, man. It's the growth. I despise him right now, but I'm like, wow, what a character development right there. What great character development. I despise him. He does terrible things, but now he's like, at the end of the show, I'm gonna be like, okay, yeah, I like Theron. He's all right. He's come a long way. You know what I mean? but yeah, so there's that. I while we were on the subject of that, I really think that they should keep everything. And Sid's theme is just beautiful, man. I love it.
Oh, his theme is wonderful.
I mean, dude, think about what Sid has been through, man. His dreams ripped away from him. Ah, man. So good, and there's so much more. This is a music show. I won't dive into it. We can do a whole SID analysis if you guys
it's
want
like,
to.
yeah, it's like people are probably like, why are they talking about all this stuff that isn't
My
music?
mind's like, talk about SID. And I'm like, no, man, come on. Hold.
But this is the thing. This is narrative music by design. I mean, that's what scores are. They're narrative music. So I like to launch into discussions related to things that like are using music as a launching point, and that's kind of like if I do start doing like regular like YouTube content, that's more what it's gonna be. Is like, let's talk about the narrative impacts and all that kind of stuff. So this is like right down my alley. Personally.
Nice.
I feel like there's probably some people that are like, where's the music theory? And I'm like,
Oh, it's all good. No, we've done some. It's all a bit about music. I love it. I hope everybody else is watching it. It has been, we haven't really did anything juicy for you, but
we can get into it. We can get into a little bit of juicy Rebirth stuff.
Oh yeah,
maybe a little bit. Now, I don't have any huge like mind blowing theories, but based off of just trying to like use music to anticipate, there's a couple of things that I can try to like, I guess, theorize or hypothesize.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, here we go. This is going to be the closing of the show. All right, so let's close it out with the juice. Steven's. We're going to close it out with Steven's. I was going to say, but I decided not to. I decided not to say that. I cut myself off this time.
I mean, you're like,
Steven's. Yo, Steven, give me the juice, okay? I want the juice, bro. Give it to me. What do you got?
So, I think we may have talked a little bit about this last time too, but one of the big themes that just really threw me in Remake is the theme in the Edge of Creation, which is in Remake it's called 7 Seconds Till the End,
yeah.
and in OG it's an arrangement of Listen to the Cries of the Planet from the original game.
Mm-hmm.
And that theme in the original game, I'm pretty sure the only place it ever plays is the Forgotten City. And then it plays here in Remake. So, yeah, like that right there is directly
taken from,
the little undertones there.
Mm-hmm.
I think I gave you a copy of Listen to the Cries of the Planet too, but I'm sure you can find it anywhere. But and 7 Seconds Till the End actually kind of keeps a little bit of that synthy sound for that part.
Oh yeah.
A little bit more orchestrated, but still has a little bit of that vibe going on. And so this is my thought is like, so let's say you're a new fan. You've played Remake, you don't go back and you don't play OG, and then you go and you play Rebirth, and then you get to the Forgotten City. Then you're hit. I mean, presumably they'll play this theme again. So then you're hit with this theme. Like, there has to be some kind of callback there, right? Now, I'm not saying that the 7 seconds till the end specifically means like the 7 seconds before Aerith dies. Like, I don't know if that's the case or not. But I think that's going to be a huge, like, I think the Forgotten City and Aerith's death or fake out death, if they don't do it, is going to be a huge point, obviously, in Rebirth. And I wonder if, like, my thought is that this whole Edge of Creation stuff that we know almost nothing about is going to be called back in the Forgotten City somewhere because of this thing. And that's really the only thing I'm basing it off of. And I've heard people give me alternate theories about, I think it's playing for this reason. I haven't heard anything that's really piqued my interest as far as like, I think that's highly possible. Could be, and again, I could be wrong, but that's my one thing where I'm like, I think something's coming back, like from the Edge of Creation in the Forgotten City.
I can agree with that. I think the Forgotten City, Forgotten Capital, or whatever. I think that's going to be, I think that's going to be the chapter 17. That's right there at the end.
I think so, and it would be interesting too if that is where Rebirth ends. Then that makes sense to call back Edge of Creation stuff then, because it's the end of Remake and then it's the end of Rebirth. Some people have speculated they will go up to the Northern Crater in Rebirth, and from a story structure standpoint, like Act 1, 2, 3, all that's the best place to end it, because that's the end of Act 2 in the OG game. But that is also a lot of video game to get through.
Too much, I think.
It very well could be, but the one thing that made me do it, kind of like revisit the idea that maybe it is because Katase was like, oh, well, I was pushing to possibly do it in 2 games, and I'm like,
oh yeah. So that just kind of solidifies my point that I really don't think it's going. Luke Skywalker on you, man. This is not going to go the way that you think it's going.
I don't know that. I mean, I don't really have a theory one way or the other on where it's going to end. I can see both. I think it's going to end in one of those 2 places, but because I don't think anywhere else where they would end Rebirth. But if they do end it at the Forgotten City, it makes sense to call back, the stuff here, and then that also makes sense. Like, oh, we're hearing this theme at the end of this game again, and it's too specific of a theme for me to think that it's not relating to the Forgotten City. And I've had people like disagree with me on that, which is okay, and I could be wrong, but I don't know. I think we're gonna get a major callback to the Edge of Creation somehow. I don't know what it's gonna be, but that's my biggest, like, I guess, most controversial theory about like the music as it pertains to Rebirth.
Now, you can finish. I was
gonna shift a little bit to a slightly different topic. So go ahead.
So I was trying to pay attention to like what the last 7 seconds of the song had in it, and it doesn't sound like there's much of anything. Has anyone ever like played it through like something that would show you see, like right here is where it just has nothing in the last 7 seconds.
It just fades out there. Yeah.
It actually stops at 9 seconds, but it would have been cool if it stopped at 7.
Right.
Or 11,
but
I
like,
guess.
Can you like take it out and like see on, I guess, a software or something, if there's anything that's like super low, super quiet, like a little sound bite or something in the last like 7 seconds?
Oh my god!
Like amplify.
I can do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a question for somebody who's more knowledgeable with that kind of stuff than I am.
Yeah, I gotta find the. I'd have to find the program, but yeah, like I could do that. Like, to see if the bars like stop, or if they picked up something really low,
like a little blip or something.
That would be kind of interesting. I'm thinking probably not, but maybe.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's interesting though. It's like somebody. It's going to be this. Okay, part 2 is Rebirth. Part 3.
somebody just like whispers like the biggest spoiler of like
right.
She lives at the end. Prepare yourselves.
All you hear is "she lives." Like that's it. That's it. Everyone will know what you're talking about.
Don't trust the dev interviews. They're wrong.
Yeah, don't trust the devs.
I just lost some followers with that. I have a lot of people like, dude, no, I trust the devs, and I'm like,
hey man, we'll see. Is all I gotta say.
We will see. Yeah,
see.
I don't, but I don't think they're like being like malicious and trying to mislead us. But I do think there's misdirection coming from somewhere, because the end of Remake insinuates something different than the dev comments. So something somewhere.
I've just kind of gone with the flow. Like, I feel like they are literally bringing the theme to life. Like we're gonna be super unreliable for you, just because that's how 7 is. We're just gonna do it for you, all right? We're gonna make you Cloud in this whole scenario. You're gonna be confused. So I'm gonna so everybody, we're actually going to be closing this one out too. Thank you so much for joining us in chat. Thank you for chiming in with all your most anticipated tracks and all that other stuff. It's been fun just playing DJ for you guys, and playing the music and really feeling those songs. I'm like, God, it's going to be so good in Rebirth, man. But Steven, thank you so much for coming on to the show and providing your analysis, providing your thoughts on what all this means, like for One Winged Angel Rebirth and Arbiter of Fate Rebirth, and everything else, man. I really appreciate it. Once again, Steven, you can find him on Twitter at FF7R Music, Final Fantasy or FF7 Music, and again, a very comprehensive breakdown, a list of music with composers, where they play in the song. This dude has gone all in with the music. I would love it if you went to his Twitter account, gave him a follow, and said, "We did this because of your appearance on FFTV." I would love that. That'd be awesome. All right, but so Steven, any closing thoughts for you?
No, just thank you for having me. And actually, I my first big surge in followers was from when you guys retweeted me. So very nice. Early on. So yeah, maybe I'll get another
awesome.
surge here. But,
well, appreciate that, Final fans. Thank you.
But no, nothing else. I really appreciate you guys let me come on here and nerd out a little bit and. Yeah, and talk to somebody about my music instead of just sitting here on my own, just like obsessively like on my computer, just like, oh, I love this so much. Yeah, it's been great. I always enjoy hanging out with you guys.
Awesome, man. Well, we'll hope to have you back on someday. Yeah. The Fire Fighter, Vinny. Closing thoughts, man.
Night.
Yeah, have a great night.
Just have a great night.
That's it, man. Just have a great night. I'm gonna close the show out with. Let's close it out with. Let's do one that's a little bit obscure. Let's see. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna randomize this, everybody. I'm gonna randomize this. It's gonna be a random Final Fantasy VII song. Oh, The Nightmare Begins.
Ooh, yeah. Who else is excited to see Vincent on Rebirth?
Uh-oh. I have thoughts. I don't know. We'll another topic for another time. Vincent, I believe we will dive into. Yeah, so there you go. The Nightmare Begins. That's going to be a fun one. Thank you so much for watching Final Fan TV. We'll see you next week.
Steven and I can't hear what you're hearing, so you're kind of just moving too.